Brothers and sisters, on this fourth Sunday of Advent, I want to reflect with you on the theme of discernment. One of the most important spiritual virtues or spiritual exercise that each and every one of us must embrace is the art of discernment. That is, how do you choose what is right? How do you avoid what is wrong? How do you choose good? And how do you avoid evil? Pope Francis has been reflecting within the last 3 months in his weekly catechesis on the theme of discernment. Why? Because everything that we do, who we are and who we become, depends so much, largely, on the choices we make. And the choices we make depend on how we discern in that condition, in that reality, what God is calling us to do, who God is calling us to be. Therefore, we must, each and every one of us, give more time to discernment so that we can know the will of God for each and every one of us, and so that we will get it right in every circumstance and in every situation. It's not easy, but God's grace can help us as God helped Joseph, the father of Jesus, who is the central figure presented to us in the gospel today. What are the 4 steps for discernment that I find in the life of Joseph that can help each and every one of us? First, the gospel today describes Joseph as a righteous man. The first step for each and every one of us in discerning good from evil is to be righteous. When you are united with God, your heart is a dwelling place of God. You are united with God. Union with God drives your heart in the direction of what God desires and what God wills for you. God is the righteous one, and Joseph is said to be a righteous person, meaning that there was in Joseph something deeply connected to the central quality of God, the righteous one. Because good seed can only grow from a good soil. So right decisions, good decisions, can only emerge from a good heart, a heart that is united with God. The second step that we find in Joseph is that Joseph was attentive to God. Joseph listened to God. It's not enough to be united with God. It's also important that unity transforms us into listening Christians, attentive Christians who are able to pay attention to the signs of the times. There are many things that we see in our lives, many things that surround us, but by paying attention, we can see God in all things and see all things through the lens of God. So when the angel came to Joseph in a dream, Joseph was able to see in the message of the angel the voice of God. Number 3, first, united with God. Second, attentiveness to God. Then, the third is choosing to do good. Indeed, if you put it the other way, do no harm. If your discernment of a decision that you have to make will cause harm to people, then you have to question whether that discernment is coming from God. Joseph thought to himself, I am not going to put my wife, my betrothed, to shame, but found a means, sought for a means, prayed and discerned how to quietly put Mary away without bringing her to shame. That is a sign of proper discernment, that he was not seeking to revenge, to punish, to disgrace Mary for becoming pregnant, perhaps out of wedlock. He rightly could have done that. The law allows him to do that, but he did not wish to do harm. So a rule of discernment is to make sure that you do no harm. Discernment leads you to do good, to do that which is beautiful, to do that which is life-giving, life-generating, to embrace grace-filled action that brings joy, beauty, and goodness in those affected by your decisions that flow from your discernment. And finally, the angel says to Joseph, do not be afraid. When you have prayed, united with God, attentive to God, you're committed to doing good. Sometimes the decisions that you make are hard decisions, but discernment also requires courage. There are many people who discern properly what to do, but they fail then to discern properly the method for doing it. So they know the destination where they want to go, but then they follow the wrong path. And what happens? They never reach their destination. How many people in the gospel have been called by God? How many of us have been chosen by God to do a certain work for God in the ministry, in the family? And our hearts are filled with joy when we discern, when this comes to us like dewdrops from above. But then we choose the wrong method. We do not follow through. And then we do not reach the destination. So here we find in Joseph how to discern the signs of the times, but also the courage to do what God wants us to do. It is wonderful that the prophecy that we find in Isaiah was fulfilled after so many years in the gospel today. Sometimes discernment is like that. It is not easy to know the will of God for us, to know in the midst of the confusion in our lives and in our world today, what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes impatience can lead us to take hasty decisions and actions, whereas sobriety, calmness of heart, prayer, being attentive to God can bring around us this heavenly atmosphere that can move our hearts in the direction of God and move our will towards that direction with courage, with resilience, with determination, but with total trust in God who leads us into the future. As we prepare for Christmas, may the hand of the Lord be upon you, and may God show you the way in every time, in every circumstance, and in every decision that you make. May the Spirit of the living God be upon you. May God's love manifest God's self to you. And may you find during this holy season the path that God is opening to you as you encounter God's Son. And always count me as loving you.